For decades, the topic of UFOs, unidentified flying objects, has remained one of the most tantalizing and mysterious subjects in human history. Although reports of strange aerial phenomena date back centuries, it was only in the mid-20th century that the phenomena began to capture global attention in a way that would forever alter the course of both public discourse and scientific inquiry. The key moment in this shift came with the incident at Roswell in 1947, when an unidentified object crashed on a ranch in New Mexico. Despite initial reports suggesting that the object was a flying disc, the U.S. government quickly retracted this and issued a new explanation. The object was simply a weather balloon. This abrupt change in narrative sparked years of speculation, leading to the belief that the government was hiding something far more significant. For the general public, the truth behind UFOs remained elusive. But for those in power, this was far more than just a passing curiosity. Governments worldwide, particularly the United States, began a careful and deliberate process of collecting information, investigating sightings, and most importantly, controlling the flow of information to the public. The notion that UFOs were a national security threat, whether from foreign powers or extraterrestrial beings, began to dominate government discussions. As a result, many UFO-related documents, files, and reports were classified and placed under the tightest of security protocols. The U.S. government, in particular, took extraordinary steps to manage the narrative surrounding UFOs, which only served to deepen the intrigue. The concept of government secrecy surrounding UFOs was not merely a product of conspiracy theorists or fringe groups. Over time, it became clear that powerful, official entities were actively involved in suppressing information. The military, intelligence agencies, and even civilian researchers began to uncover evidence suggesting that UFO encounters were far more frequent and far more complex than anyone had imagined. Yet, despite mounting evidence, these agencies remained largely tight-lipped, either dismissing the phenomenon as a misunderstanding or labeling witnesses as unreliable. At times, the government's responses to UFO encounters seemed deliberately vague, fueling the belief that something more was being hidden. Through the years, individuals from all walks of life, from airline pilots to military personnel, from scientists to everyday civilians, have reported extraordinary encounters with objects in the sky. These encounters range from sightings of mysterious lights to close encounters with craft that defy conventional understanding of physics. These reports, though numerous, were often dismissed by both the media and the government. For many years, the prevailing narrative was that UFOs were nothing more than an intriguing, yet ultimately explainable anomaly. The idea that governments were hiding a deeper truth was often regarded as the domain of conspiracy theorists. However, the tides began to turn in the 21st century. The advent of the Internet, coupled with the rise of social media platforms, allowed previously hidden or overlooked documents to resurface. Governments, particularly in the United States, were increasingly forced to release certain files, often under the demands of Freedom of Information Act (FOIA) requests. These releases gave the public an unprecedented glimpse into the clandestine world of UFO investigations and government responses. Suddenly, the narrative of UFOs as a dismissed and trivial phenomenon began to shift. The declassification of materials, such as the infamous Blue Book reports, revealed that the U.S. government had been studying UFOs for decades, with far more seriousness and detail than previously acknowledged. One of the most notable events in this process occurred in 2017, when the New York Times published an explosive report about the Pentagon's secretive Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program (ADIP), a program that had been studying UFOs as a potential national security threat. This revelation sent shockwaves through both the government and the general public. For the first time, a reputable mainstream news source had reported on the Pentagon's involvement in investigating UFOs. This revelation, however, was just the tip of the iceberg. It spurred numerous new investigations, interviews with former military personnel, and the declassification of previously restricted footage from military encounters with unexplained aerial phenomena. The most notable of these releases was a series of videos showing unidentified flying objects performing maneuvers that defied the laws of aerodynamics, as understood by contemporary science. These videos were taken by U.S. Navy pilots and released to the public with the acknowledgement of high-ranking officials. In tandem with the release of official documents, the public's perception of UFOs has also shifted. The notion of extraterrestrial visitation, once relegated to the realm of science fiction, has gained more credibility in the eyes of many. As new reports of UFO sightings and interactions continue to surface, more and more individuals are beginning to question the official explanations. And yet, despite the overwhelming volume of evidence, be it eyewitness testimony, declassified documents, or video footage, government agencies remain hesitant to provide a definitive explanation. Some argue that the lack of a clear response only serves to reinforce suspicions that UFOs are far more than just strange atmospheric phenomena. The debate has evolved into one that is not only about the nature of the object themselves, but about the intentions of the governments that have hidden the truth for so long. As this story unfolds, it is clear that we are on the brink of a new era of UFO research. With the continuing revelations of government involvement in UFO investigations, new theories are emerging, and the lines between fiction and reality are becoming increasingly blurred. In the coming years, it's likely that more documents will be declassified, more videos will be released, and more individuals will come forward with their own encounters. This script delves into these mysterious and often chilling stories, bringing to light the hidden files and the accounts that the government would rather keep buried. The purpose here is not to sensationalize or jump to conclusions, but rather to explore the facts as they stand and understand the broader implications of what these revelations mean for our understanding of the world, and perhaps even our place in the universe. In this exploration, we will look closely at the documents that have surfaced, the testimonies of those who have witnessed the extraordinary, and the many theories that continue to emerge as to what UFOs really are. We will examine how these phenomena have shaped our culture, influenced government policy, and sparked an ongoing quest for answers. As you listen, let the mystery envelop you, and allow your thoughts to wander into the realm of the unknown. Could there be truths out there that we are yet to fully comprehend? And if so, what might they mean for us? The journey begins with an open mind, as we begin to uncover the classified UFO cases that the government has tried, and often succeeded, in burying. The history of UFO sightings and the subsequent interest of governments in investigating them dates back long before the modern era of classified documents and sensationalist media. While tales of strange aerial phenomena can be found in ancient texts, it was the events of the 1940s that would fundamentally shape the government's response to UFOs. At the time, the world was recovering from the devastation of World War II, and new anxieties about national security, technological advancement, and the possibility of extraterrestrial life were beginning to take root in the collective consciousness. The modern UFO phenomenon began in 1947 with a series of events that would forever change the way the world viewed unidentified flying objects. The most famous of these events was the alleged crash of a flying disc near Roswell, New Mexico, in July 1947. While the U.S. military initially confirmed that a flying disc had been recovered, this statement was quickly retracted and replaced with an explanation that the object was simply a weather balloon. This reversal raised suspicions among the public, who began to wonder whether the government was hiding a more significant truth. The conflicting statements only fueled speculation, giving rise to one of the most enduring UFO mysteries in history. The Roswell incident was not an isolated event. In the years that followed, hundreds of reports flooded in from across the United States and beyond, with people claiming to have seen strange, unexplained objects in the sky. What began as a series of odd sightings quickly became a matter of national security. The U.S. government, already steeped in Cold War tensions and the constant fear of espionage, saw the potential implications of these UFO reports as both a military concern and a potential psychological threat. If these objects were indeed extraterrestrial, it could signify an advanced and potentially hostile intelligence beyond Earth. Alternatively, if they were man-made, they could represent a threat from a foreign power, such as the Soviet Union, which was rapidly advancing its own technology. This climate of fear and paranoia led to the creation of government programs dedicated to studying UFO sightings and encounters. In 1948, the U.S. Air Force launched Project Sign, one of the first official investigations into UFO phenomena. The project was tasked with gathering information and analyzing UFO sightings to determine if they posed a threat to national security. However, the findings of Project Sign were inconclusive. Some reports suggested that the UFOs were merely natural phenomena, while others hinted at the possibility of extraterrestrial involvement. Nevertheless, Project Sign was deemed unsuccessful in providing definitive answers, and by 1949, the program was shut down. Despite the failure of Project Sign, the government's interest in UFOs did not wane. In 1952, after a series of high-profile sightings over Washington, D.C., the U.S. Air Force launched Project Blue Book, a more extensive and long-term investigation into UFO phenomena. Project Blue Book, which lasted until 1969, became the most well-known government program dedicated to UFO research. Over its 17 years of operation, Project Blue Book received thousands of UFO reports from civilians and military personnel alike. The program's stated goal was to determine whether UFOs were a threat to national security and to scientifically analyze any unexplained aerial phenomena. Despite its extensive efforts, Project Blue Book's final conclusions were less than satisfying for those who believed that UFOs were extraterrestrial in origin. The majority of the cases investigated were classified as either misidentified natural phenomena, conventional aircraft, or hoaxes. However, a small percentage of cases remained unexplained, meaning that the Air Force could not provide a conclusive explanation for the sightings. This ambiguity led to continued skepticism, both within the military and among the public, about the true nature of the phenomena. Some researchers, such as Dr. J. Allen Hynek, who served as a scientific advisor to the project, became increasingly disillusioned with the official stance. Hynek, who initially dismissed many UFO reports, eventually came to believe that some of the sightings could not be easily explained away. His change in perspective led him to call for more serious scientific investigation into the phenomenon, which he argued was being deliberately ignored by government agencies. During this period, UFO sightings began to take on a new significance in the cultural imagination. The post-war era was one of rapid technological advancement, including the beginning of the space race between the United States and the Soviet Union. The fear of nuclear war, the discovery of strange new technologies, and the growing popularity of science fiction all contributed to a societal atmosphere that was ripe for the UFO phenomenon. In the public eye, UFOs began to symbolize not only the possibility of extraterrestrial life, but also humanity's deepest anxieties about the unknown. Films like The Day the Earth Stood Still 1951 and War of the Worlds 1953 began to explore the theme of alien contact, often portraying extraterrestrials as both a potential threat and a symbol of human vulnerability. At the same time, the government's response to UFOs continued to be one of cautious skepticism. Military and intelligence agencies sought to downplay the phenomenon, often issuing official statements that UFO sightings were either the result of misidentifications or psychological factors, such as mass hysteria. This official stance, however, did little to quell public curiosity. In fact, it only seemed to fuel further speculation, leading to an increasing number of UFO sightings reported by both civilians and military personnel. By the 1960s, UFO sightings were becoming a regular feature of the public consciousness. The media, too, began to take the phenomenon seriously. In 1966, the infamous Westall UFO incident in Australia, in which dozens of school children and teachers witnessed a UFO, captured the attention of both the public and the press. This marked a turning point in the way UFOs were discussed in the media, as stories about strange aerial phenomena became more frequent and detailed. While some mainstream outlets remained skeptical, others began to take the subject seriously, with reporters and journalists investigating high-profile sightings and exploring the growing body of UFO-related evidence. The rising public interest in UFOs coincided with a growing mistrust of government authority. In the wake of scandals like the Watergate affair and the Vietnam War, many Americans began to question the veracity of official statements and narratives. This environment of skepticism created fertile ground for UFO conspiracy theories, as individuals began to speculate that the government was deliberately withholding information about extraterrestrial contact. The idea that UFOs were not just misunderstood natural phenomena, but rather evidence of an ongoing cover-up by the U.S. government, began to gain traction. Throughout the 1970s and beyond, the cultural fascination with UFOs continued to grow, even as the government's position on the phenomenon remained largely unchanged. Despite the increasing number of sightings and the growing body of anecdotal evidence, UFOs were still viewed by most official bodies as a largely unimportant issue, one that could be easily dismissed or explained away. However, for those who had seen the unexplained, this official indifference only reinforced their belief that the truth about UFOs was being deliberately suppressed. In the years since, the debate over UFOs and their potential connection to extraterrestrial life has only intensified. New documents, films, and witness accounts have continued to emerge, and with each new piece of evidence, the questions surrounding UFOs have only grown more complex. Yet, as governments continue to release certain files and admit to their past investigations, the mystery surrounding UFOs persists. The truth, it seems, is far from clear, and the government's role in shaping the narrative of UFOs remains as enigmatic as the phenomenon itself. Thus, the early years of UFO research, spanning from the 1940s to the 1960s, established a framework within which government agencies, military officials, and the public would come to understand or misunderstand the phenomena. These formative years set the stage for the decades of secrecy, speculation, and investigation that followed. As we delve deeper into the government's role in UFO research and the declassification of key documents, it becomes clear that the story of UFOs is far from over. The release of classified government documents regarding UFOs has been one of the most significant milestones in the ongoing mystery surrounding these unexplained aerial phenomena. For decades, the official stance of governments, particularly in the United States, was one of denial or indifference. UFOs were dismissed as mere curiosities, often ridiculed in the media and treated with skepticism by scientific authorities. Yet, behind closed doors, governments around the world were quietly collecting, studying, and sometimes even tracking the phenomena. The discovery and declassification of these documents have provided an unprecedented glimpse into the secretive world of UFO investigations, offering a deeper understanding of how governments have approached the subject over the years, and what, if anything, they might know about the true nature of UFOs. One of the earliest and most well-known government investigations into UFOs was the United States Air Force's Project Blue Book, which ran from 1952 until 1969. For decades, the project was seen as the official government stance on UFOs, and its declassified reports have been the subject of intense scrutiny. The project involved investigating over 12,000 UFO sightings, many of which were reported by military personnel, pilots, and civilians. Of these, the majority were explained as misidentified aircraft, weather balloons, atmospheric phenomena, or hoaxes. Yet a small percentage, around 700 cases, remained unexplained. These unresolved incidents were filed under the category of unknown, and the lack of an official explanation for these sightings only fueled further public curiosity and speculation. While Project Blue Book's official conclusion was that UFOs posed no threat to national security, the very existence of the program and the unresolved cases it left behind suggested a more complex reality. Declassified documents from the project, which were released to the public in the late 1970s, shed light on the nature of the investigations and the internal debates that took place within the military. For example, several reports indicated that UFOs had been observed performing maneuvers that were beyond the capabilities of known aircraft. In one notable case, a U.S. Air Force pilot described seeing a UFO that appeared to hover, accelerate, and change direction at speeds that were physically impossible for human-made technology at the time. Yet, the Air Force, under pressure from both the public and government officials, continued to downplay these incidents and insisted that the objects were either misidentifications or the result of optical illusions. As time passed and more UFO reports surfaced, the U.S. government continued to release select documents related to UFO investigations. One of the most significant of these documents was the Majestic 12 (MJ-12) report, which came to light in the 1980s. The MJ-12 documents, which were allegedly leaked from within the government, suggested that a secret group of high-ranking officials had been tasked with investigating extraterrestrial technology and UFO crashes. According to these documents, MJ-12 had been formed in the aftermath of the Roswell incident and was responsible for overseeing a covert effort to retrieve and study alien spacecraft. While the authenticity of the MJ-12 documents has been widely disputed, they nevertheless raised questions about the level of secrecy surrounding UFO research and whether a hidden, elite group had access to information far beyond the public's knowledge. In addition to the MJ-12 documents, other significant UFO-related files have been declassified over the years, particularly in the 1990s and 2000s. In 1994, the U.S. Air Force released a report called the Roswell Report, Fact versus Fiction in the New Mexico Desert, which sought to provide a definitive explanation for the 1947 Roswell incident. The report claimed that the object that crashed near Roswell was not a flying disc, as originally reported, but rather a weather balloon from a top-secret military project known as Mogul. According to the Air Force, the Mogul project involved high-altitude balloons used to detect Soviet nuclear tests. While this explanation was presented as the official narrative, many UFO researchers and witnesses have continued to dispute it, citing inconsistencies in the Air Force's account and the failure to explain key aspects of the incident. The release of government documents has not been limited to the United States. Other nations, including the United Kingdom, Canada, and France, have also declassified UFO-related files, further fueling the global intrigue surrounding the phenomenon. For example, in 2008, the UK Ministry of Defence released a collection of files detailing UFO sightings and government investigations spanning several decades. These documents, many of which had been kept classified for years, revealed a consistent pattern of UFO encounters reported by both military personnel and civilians. In one case, a UFO was reportedly tracked by radar and observed by multiple witnesses, yet the Ministry of Defense was unable to offer a satisfactory explanation. Similar releases have occurred in Canada and France, where officials have acknowledged the existence of UFO reports and investigations, though the official stance remains that these phenomena are not of extraterrestrial origin. The ongoing declassification of UFO-related materials has been a double-edged sword for both government officials and UFO researchers. On one hand, the release of documents has provided valuable insight into the government's internal investigations and the level of concern that was felt over UFO encounters. It has also given credibility to the idea that UFOs were taken seriously by military and intelligence agencies at the highest levels. On the other hand, the selective nature of these releases, combined with the contradictions and inconsistencies found within many of the documents, has only fueled further speculation and conspiracy theories. Many researchers argue that the documents released thus far represent only a small fraction of the information that remains hidden, and that much of the most sensitive material remains classified, perhaps for national security reasons. In 2017, a new chapter in the story of UFO declassification began when the New York Times published an article revealing the existence of the Pentagon's Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, ATIP. The program, which had been operating from 2007 to 2012, was designed to investigate unexplained aerial phenomena, UAP, that were observed by military personnel. The Pentagon confirmed that the program had studied UFO sightings, some of which were captured on military radar and in video footage. The release of this information marked a significant shift in the government's stance on UFOs, as the Pentagon acknowledged the existence of a secret program dedicated to studying aerial phenomena that could not be easily explained by known science or technology. The Pentagon's admission was further supported by the release of declassified footage showing encounters between U.S. Navy pilots and unidentified aerial objects. In these videos, which were officially released by the Pentagon in 2020, Navy pilots are seen tracking UFOs that perform extraordinary maneuvers, accelerating, changing direction at high speeds, and even disappearing at a moment's notice. These videos were not the result of hoaxes or misidentifications. They were captured by highly trained military personnel using state-of-the-art technology. The release of these videos, along with the Pentagon's acknowledgement of the ADIP program, raised new questions about the nature of UFOs and the level of knowledge that governments have about these phenomena. Despite the growing body of declassified documents and the increasing number of credible witness testimonies, the full extent of what the government knows about UFOs remains a mystery. There are still significant gaps in the available data, and much of the information that remains classified is likely to be crucial in understanding the true nature of UFOs. It is also unclear whether future declassification efforts will provide the full picture, or if the government will continue to withhold certain details for reasons of national security or to avoid public panic. As more documents are released and more information comes to light, the question remains, what do governments truly know about UFOs, and why have they been so reluctant to share this knowledge with the public? While the release of classified documents has brought us closer to understanding the government's role in UFO research, many unanswered questions still linger, leaving us to wonder what the full story might be, and whether we will ever learn the truth behind the mysterious objects that continue to defy explanation. While government documents and military investigations into UFOs have provided substantial evidence of a phenomenon beyond ordinary explanation, the most compelling aspects of the UFO mystery often come from those who have witnessed the phenomena firsthand. Eyewitness accounts have long been a critical part of the UFO enigma, yet they are frequently met with skepticism, both from the public and from authorities. These testimonies, often given by ordinary people with no reason to fabricate or exaggerate their experiences, challenge the official narratives that seek to dismiss UFO sightings as misidentifications or psychological phenomena. Whether they describe strange lights in the sky, close encounters with bizarre craft, or even abductions, these accounts provide a deeply personal and often chilling perspective on the unexplained. They also reveal a profound psychological and emotional impact on those who encounter the unknown. One of the earliest and most famous UFO encounters in history occurred in 1961, when Betty and Barney Hill, a married couple from New Hampshire, reported being abducted by extraterrestrials during a late-night drive through the countryside. The Hills experience, which became the subject of extensive media coverage and psychological investigation, is one of the most well-documented and studied abduction cases in UFO history. According to the Hills, they were traveling home when they saw a strange light in the sky that appeared to follow them. As the light drew closer, it took on the shape of a large metallic craft. Terrified, the Hills attempted to flee, but they felt as though they were unable to move. The next thing they remembered, they were miles away from their original location, with no clear recollection of how they had gotten there. Under hypnosis, the Hills recalled being taken aboard the craft by alien beings who conducted medical examinations before releasing them. The Hills' account sparked widespread interest and debate. Some believed their story to be a genuine encounter with extraterrestrials, while others suggested that the couple had experienced a shared hallucination or that their memories had been distorted through hypnosis. Regardless of the interpretation, their testimony remains one of the most well-known abduction stories to date. The psychological aspect of the Hill case is particularly significant, as it was one of the first to be analyzed under the lens of psychological theory. Some experts suggested that the Hills' experience could be explained as a form of sleep paralysis or a response to the stress and anxiety of the Cold War era. Others, however, were convinced that the couple had indeed encountered beings from another world. In the years following the Hills' experience, numerous other individuals came forward with their own UFO sightings and abduction claims. Some of these witnesses were ordinary civilians, while others were highly trained professionals, including police officers, military personnel, and airline pilots, people who would typically be expected to be reliable observers. Their accounts range from sightings of bright lights in the sky to close encounters with craft that defied conventional understanding of aviation technology. One notable case occurred in 1967, when a police officer named Herbert Schirmer reported seeing a UFO while on duty in Nebraska. Schirmer's encounter took place late at night when he was patrolling a remote area of the highway. He described seeing a strange, glowing object hovering in the sky, which seemed to defy the laws of physics by hovering motionless for an extended period before accelerating at incredible speed. Schirmer was later subjected to hypnosis, during which he recalled being taken aboard the craft and subjected to a medical examination by alien beings. Schirmer's testimony is significant not only because it came from a law enforcement officer, but also because it was corroborated by physical evidence. Schirmer reported a sudden and unexplained time loss, a phenomenon common in many UFO abduction stories. His account was also backed by the presence of strange markings found on his vehicle, which were later analyzed by experts but could not be easily explained. Schirmer's experience, like those of other witnesses, challenged the conventional explanations for UFO sightings and raised questions about the nature of the phenomenon itself. Was it possible that UFOs were not merely misidentified military aircraft or weather phenomena, but something entirely more mysterious? While cases like the Hills and Schirmer's received significant attention, they are by no means isolated. Throughout the decades, thousands of individuals have reported UFO sightings and encounters, many of which remain unexplained to this day. One of the most famous mass sightings occurred in 1997, when thousands of people across the state of Arizona witnessed a series of strange lights in the sky, later dubbed the Phoenix Lights. Witnesses reported seeing a large V-shaped formation of lights moving silently across the night sky, followed by a series of individual lights that appeared to hover in place. Despite extensive media coverage and investigations by both civilian and military authorities, no satisfactory explanation has ever been provided for the Phoenix Lights. Many witnesses continue to insist that they saw something truly unexplainable, something that defied the known laws of aerodynamics. The psychological impact of UFO sightings is another crucial aspect of eyewitness accounts. For many, encountering a UFO is a life-altering experience, one that can lead to a profound shift in worldview. Some witnesses report feeling a sense of awe, wonder, or even fear at the sight of something so inexplicable. For others, the experience can be deeply unsettling, leading to anxiety, paranoia, and a sense of isolation. Many UFO witnesses describe a feeling of being different after their encounter, as if they have been marked in some way by the event. This psychological effect has been studied by researchers, who note that many witnesses experience difficulty reconciling their experience with societal expectations of what is normal. They may face ridicule from friends, family, or the broader public, and as a result, many UFO witnesses choose to remain silent about their experiences, fearing they will be labeled as crazy or delusional. Interestingly, many UFO witnesses, particularly those who have had close encounters or abduction experiences, report similar details in their testimonies. These commonalities include descriptions of the craft itself, often described as metallic or disc-shaped, the appearance of the beings, often humanoid, but with distinct features such as large eyes and gray skin, and the sensation of being unable to move or communicate during the encounter. These recurring elements have led some researchers to propose that UFO experiences may be rooted in a shared cultural or psychological phenomenon, while others maintain that the consistency of these reports points to the possibility of a real, external phenomenon. The increasing number of credible witnesses who have come forward with their stories has made it increasingly difficult for the government and the scientific community to continue dismissing UFOs as mere misidentifications. Even as official bodies like Project Blue Book and the Pentagon's Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program (ADIP) have sought to downplay the significance of UFO encounters, the sheer volume of eyewitness accounts continues to challenge this narrative. The question remains, if so many people from so many different walks of life, people with no prior knowledge of one another, report seeing similar phenomena, what does that tell us about the nature of UFOs? While many UFO sightings can be explained by conventional means, such as aircraft or atmospheric phenomena, the growing body of eyewitness testimony suggests that there is still much that we do not understand. It is not just the strange lights in the sky that continue to puzzle us, but also the deep psychological and emotional effects of these encounters. Whether through their vivid memories, their emotional responses, or their sense of having encountered something truly otherworldly, eyewitnesses provide a unique and valuable perspective on the UFO phenomenon. For those who have witnessed the unexplained, the question of whether UFOs are real is not a matter of speculation. It is a matter of personal experience. And as more and more people come forward with their stories, the mystery of UFOs continues to grow, challenging our understanding of the world around us and inviting us to question what might lie beyond the boundaries of our knowledge. The media has played an essential role in shaping public perception of UFOs and extraterrestrial phenomena, both positively and negatively, throughout the history of UFO sightings and government investigations. From sensationalized newspaper headlines to documentary films and modern-day social media posts, the portrayal of UFOs has evolved over time. Initially regarded as nothing more than curious, often laughable oddities, UFOs eventually became central to the global conversation surrounding potential extraterrestrial life, government cover-ups, and even human psychology. The media, with its power to influence public opinion and cultural attitudes, has helped to both legitimize and discredit UFO phenomena, sometimes within the same breath. As we trace the media's role in the UFO story, we can see how it has been instrumental in creating a cultural framework that both fuels fascination and perpetuates skepticism. The early relationship between the media and UFOs was marked by a sense of incredulity, with the majority of news outlets framing UFO sightings as fanciful, fringe occurrences. Following the 1947 Roswell incident, where a supposed flying disc was reported to have crashed in New Mexico, the media largely treated UFOs as a curiosity or a hoax. The military's quick retraction of its initial report that a flying disc had been recovered fueled the notion that UFOs were either the product of mass hysteria or deliberate fabrications. In the years following Roswell, numerous reports of UFO sightings emerged, but media outlets often framed these stories as the result of misidentifications or simple misunderstandings of conventional aircraft. In many ways, the media mirrored the government's approach, focusing on debunking the phenomenon rather than exploring its implications. Despite the prevailing skepticism, the emergence of sensationalist science fiction films and pulp fiction books in the 1950s and 1960s began to sow the seeds for a shift in public interest. Movies such as The Day the Earth Stood Still 1951 and War of the Worlds 1953, as well as serialized radio broadcasts like The War of the Worlds in 1938, began to blend the genres of entertainment and paranoia. These works of fiction captivated the imagination of millions, and while many treated them as mere stories, they also brought UFOs and extraterrestrials into mainstream cultural consciousness. The narrative presented in these films often revolved around alien encounters that were either threatening or posed as a warning to humanity. These portrayals helped normalize the concept of alien life in the public's mind, creating a cultural backdrop where UFOs were no longer dismissed out of hand, but seen as potential threats or mysteries. As the 1960s and 1970s progressed, the public's relationship with UFOs shifted, thanks in part to the rise of countercultural movements, which encouraged skepticism toward authority and challenged traditional narratives. The media began to treat UFOs with a greater degree of seriousness. The rise of investigative journalism during this period played a role in pushing UFO stories into the limelight. The 1967 Westall UFO sighting in Australia, which was witnessed by over 200 school children and teachers, sparked widespread media coverage and public interest. The event was investigated by reporters and even the Australian government, though it ultimately remained unresolved. However, the media coverage contributed to the normalization of UFO sightings and helped foster a climate where such reports were no longer instantly dismissed as hoaxes or delusions. In the United States, the growing number of UFO reports, particularly those involving military personnel, prompted greater media attention. One of the most high-profile cases in the late 1960s involved the sightings by U.S. Air Force personnel at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana, where UFOs were allegedly seen hovering over nuclear missile silos. The story was initially reported in the local press, but soon gained national attention. It raised alarm among both the public and the government, as the idea of extraterrestrial beings taking an interest in military facilities, especially those with nuclear weapons, was seen as a potentially dire security concern. The media's coverage of such reports helped to raise the level of urgency around the UFO question, particularly with respect to national security. In the 1970s, the media began to shift from sensationalism to a more investigative approach, driven in part by the growing number of UFO sightings and the increasing level of interest from credible witnesses. Documentaries such as UFOs, Past, Present, and Future 1974 explored the topic in a more methodical and serious manner, offering a platform for researchers and experts in the field to present their findings. Meanwhile, the release of government documents, including those related to Project Blue Book, fueled public curiosity and skepticism. As these materials were declassified and more stories came to light, the media's portrayal of UFOs began to reflect the increasing complexity of the phenomenon. Rather than dismissing UFOs outright, many outlets began to treat the issue with a sense of ambiguity, acknowledging that there were indeed phenomena that defied conventional explanations, even if the true nature of those phenomena remained unclear. The media's treatment of UFOs reached a new height in the 1990s, particularly with the airing of the TV series The X-Files. The show, which ran from 1993 to 2002, blended science fiction with conspiracy theories and government cover-ups, and it became a cultural phenomenon. The X-Files helped to shape a generation's view of UFOs and the idea of government secrecy regarding extraterrestrial life. The show's portrayal of shadowy government agencies attempting to conceal the truth about UFOs mirrored the growing belief among the public that the government was withholding vital information. While The X-Files was, of course, a fictional television program, it served as a reflection of the wider public interest in UFOs and the belief that the government had knowledge it was unwilling to share. At the same time, UFO sightings continued to be a common feature of media coverage. In 1997, the Phoenix Lights incident captivated the nation when thousands of people across the state of Arizona reported seeing a massive V-shaped formation of lights moving silently across the sky. Despite numerous eyewitness accounts and video footage, the official explanation from the military was that the lights were flares dropped during a training exercise. However, many witnesses continued to insist that what they saw was far different from the military's explanation. The media's portrayal of the incident was mixed, with some outlets continuing to support the military's version of events, while others gave voice to the witnesses who argued that something far stranger was occurring in the skies over Arizona. This division in the media reinforced the broader cultural divide over UFOs, one that saw some people accept the official line, while others began to distrust the explanations offered by the authorities. The role of the media in the 21st century has only increased in complexity. The advent of the internet and social media platforms has allowed for the rapid spread of UFO-related information, both credible and otherwise. Websites, blogs, and forums dedicated to UFO sightings, theories, and government cover-ups now serve as primary sources of information for many people seeking to understand the phenomenon. In addition, video-sharing platforms like YouTube have enabled individuals to share their own personal UFO sightings, adding to the growing body of visual evidence available to the public. However, the proliferation of such content has also led to a proliferation of misinformation, hoaxes, and sensationalized reports. The challenge for the media now is to navigate the vast sea of information and present credible, fact-based reporting while separating legitimate evidence from the noise. In recent years, the media has been forced to reckon with the reality of UFOs in a more serious way. The release of the Pentagon's UFO videos in 2017, followed by the confirmation of the existence of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, ATIP, marked a turning point. For the first time, the U.S. government acknowledged that it had been investigating UFOs for decades, and the media responded by treating the subject with greater gravity. Mainstream outlets like the New York Times, the Washington Post, and CBS News cover the story in depth, and the public's interest in UFOs surged once again. This shift in the media's approach to UFOs has sparked new questions about the government's role in concealing or revealing information, as well as what the future holds for UFO disclosure. The media's portrayal of UFOs has always been a reflection of societal attitudes, and as our understanding of the phenomenon continues to evolve, so too will the media's role in shaping public perception. Whether the media continues to treat UFOs as a serious topic of investigation or falls back into its old patterns of sensationalism and dismissal remains to be seen. What is clear, however, is that the media will continue to be a key player in the ongoing conversation about UFOs and extraterrestrial life, shaping not only how we understand the phenomenon, but also how we respond to it. When it comes to UFOs, the conventional explanations, misidentified aircraft, atmospheric phenomena, or psychological delusions, have long been the primary narratives put forth by authorities and skeptics. However, these explanations fail to account for a significant number of sightings and experiences that do not fit neatly within the boundaries of the known. Over the decades, alternative theories have emerged that challenge conventional wisdom, proposing that UFOs may not merely be misidentified aircraft or secret military projects, but something far more complex and elusive. These theories, ranging from the plausible to the speculative, have gained traction among researchers, UFO enthusiasts, and even some government insiders, suggesting that the truth behind UFOs may be far stranger than we can imagine. One of the most widely discussed alternative theories is the notion that UFOs are not of extraterrestrial origin, but rather represent a form of interdimensional or intertime travel. This theory posits that UFOs may be vehicles from other dimensions or time periods, rather than visitors from distant planets. The idea of interdimensional travel has its roots in both quantum physics and the realm of science fiction. According to proponents of this theory, our universe may contain multiple dimensions or parallel worlds, and UFOs could be vessels moving between these planes of existence. The theory suggests that what we perceive as UFOs may actually be craft that have crossed over from other dimensions, and that the strange characteristics of UFOs, such as their ability to appear and disappear or their movement that defies conventional physics, are a result of the laws of physics differing in these other dimensions. Supporters of the interdimensional theory point to the apparent glitches in UFO sightings. Objects that seem to disappear and reappear, vehicles that defy conventional aerodynamics, or craft that hover in place despite no visible means of propulsion. In this theory, UFOs could be interacting with our reality in ways that are beyond our current understanding of physics, suggesting that they come from dimensions that exist alongside our own. While still speculative, this idea has been taken seriously by some physicists, who suggest that the existence of parallel universes could one day be confirmed by advances in quantum mechanics. Another alternative theory centers on the idea that UFOs are part of a secret government or military program, one that is far beyond the public's knowledge. This theory posits that UFOs are not extraterrestrial in origin, but rather advanced, highly classified technologies developed by governments, particularly the United States. The idea of reverse engineering extraterrestrial technology is one of the most persistent conspiracy theories in UFO circles, and it suggests that the government has been in possession of alien spacecraft since at least the Roswell incident in 1947. According to this theory, the military has been studying and reverse engineering UFO technology in secret, using this knowledge to create advanced aircraft and weaponry that have been kept hidden from the public. Some proponents of this theory suggest that the UFO phenomenon may be a cover for these secret military programs, with the government using UFO reports to distract attention from highly classified projects, such as the development of advanced propulsion systems, stealth aircraft, or energy weapons. One of the most notable pieces of evidence often cited in support of this theory is the fact that many UFO sightings occur near military bases or sensitive government installations. This has led some to speculate that UFOs may be conducting surveillance on military operations or testing the defenses of these high-security areas. There are also accounts from military personnel, such as the aforementioned Malmstrom Air Force Base incident in the 1960s, which suggest that UFOs have been seen hovering near nuclear missile silos, causing systems to malfunction. These sightings have led to the belief that UFOs might be observing humanity's technological progress, particularly in the area of nuclear weapons, and may even be attempting to monitor or control our military capabilities. Some researchers argue that the government's reluctance to fully disclose information about UFOs is not due to a cover-up of extraterrestrial life, but rather to the desire to keep highly advanced military technology secret. This theory suggests that UFOs are not spaceships from another planet, but are instead part of a covert, ongoing military program designed to push the boundaries of aviation technology. The persistent secrecy around UFOs and the selective release of documents are often cited as evidence that the government is hiding something, though not necessarily evidence of extraterrestrials. Instead, the government may be concealing the true nature of its own technological advancements, fearing the public's reaction if it were to learn the extent of military capabilities hidden under the veil of UFO reports. Another alternative theory that has garnered attention is the notion of UFOs as manifestations of human consciousness or collective psychological experiences. This theory posits that UFOs may not exist in the physical world at all, but rather are a product of the human mind. In this view, UFO sightings and abduction experiences could be the result of altered states of consciousness, possibly induced by stress, trauma, or a deep desire for meaning beyond the mundane. Proponents of this theory suggest that UFOs could be a type of psychic phenomenon, similar to poltergeists or other paranormal occurrences, which are influenced by human thoughts, emotions, or collective beliefs. One well-known version of this theory is the psychosocial hypothesis, which suggests that UFOs are a kind of modern mythology, a product of the cultural and psychological anxieties of the times. In this view, UFOs represent the fears and desires of a society grappling with the unknown, whether that is the fear of nuclear war, the search for meaning in a rapidly changing world, or the desire to believe in something beyond our understanding. UFOs, according to this theory, may serve as a symbolic manifestation of humanity's deep-seated existential questions about life, death, and the possibility of life beyond Earth. Psychological explanations for UFOs often point to phenomena like sleep paralysis, hallucinations, or the power of suggestion. For example, many reported alien abductions share striking similarities, with witnesses describing beings with large eyes and gray skin, often in very specific scenarios involving medical examinations. Some psychologists suggest that these common elements may be the result of shared cultural narratives, where popular media, such as movies or books, shape the way people perceive their own experiences. In this view, UFO sightings and abduction stories may be a form of collective psychological projection, a way for people to make sense of their own fears and desires through a shared cultural lens. Beyond these more grounded theories, there are even more speculative and fringe ideas that have emerged. One of these is the theory that UFOs are time travelers from Earth's future. According to this theory, UFOs are not from distant galaxies, but rather from a future version of humanity. The idea is that advanced humans, having developed the technology to travel through time, have come back to observe or even interact with their past. Some proponents of this theory suggest that UFOs are visiting us to study humanity at a pivotal point in our development, either to prevent catastrophic events or to learn from our mistakes. This theory suggests that the appearance of UFOs is not an alien invasion, but rather a form of temporal observation, with future humans attempting to understand their own origins or shape the course of history. Another popular theory, though even more speculative, is the notion that UFOs are part of a vast, hidden galactic federation or interstellar alliance. This idea posits that extraterrestrial civilizations have already made contact with Earth, but that these encounters have been kept secret by a global network of governments and elites. According to this theory, Earth is part of a larger, interstellar community of civilizations that has agreed to remain silent about the existence of extraterrestrials to prevent mass panic or disruption of social order. This idea often draws on conspiracy theories surrounding secret societies, such as the Illuminati, and suggests that the real truth about UFOs is being deliberately hidden to protect humanity from the overwhelming implications of such knowledge. Finally, there is the more metaphysical theory that UFOs are manifestations of extraterrestrial consciousness, or life forms that do not exist in physical form. This theory suggests that UFOs are not physical ships, but are instead expressions of an alien intelligence that exists beyond our material understanding. In this view, UFOs are not necessarily made of matter, but are instead a type of energy or consciousness that interacts with our world on a level that defies conventional explanation. As these alternative theories continue to proliferate, the mystery surrounding UFOs becomes ever more complex. Whether UFOs are interdimensional travelers, secret military projects, psychological phenomena, or something else entirely, the search for answers challenges our understanding of reality itself. Each theory adds another layer to the puzzle, forcing us to confront the limits of our knowledge and the possibility that the truth about UFOs may be far stranger than we ever imagined. The mystery of UFOs and extraterrestrial life has permeated much more than the realms of science, government, and academia. It has profoundly shaped the global cultural landscape. From art and literature to television and film, the image of unidentified flying objects and alien visitors has woven itself into the fabric of our collective imagination, influencing how we think about the cosmos, technology, and even our own place in the universe. UFOs have come to symbolize both fear and hope, with the potential to disrupt our understanding of science, spirituality, and the very nature of humanity. While the concept of intelligent life beyond Earth may seem like a subject for scientific inquiry, the cultural influence of UFOs is something far deeper, revealing our desires, anxieties, and even our ongoing search for meaning in an ever-changing world. The origins of UFOs in popular culture can be traced back to the earliest days of the 20th century. The idea of extraterrestrial life and space travel was not new, but it was the rapid advancement of technology and the beginning of the space age that brought the concept into mainstream consciousness. Works of fiction, such as H.G. Wells' The War of the Worlds, 1898, which portrayed an invasion of Earth by Martians, and the writings of authors like Jules Verne, helped to popularize the idea that life beyond Earth was not only possible, but that it could be much closer than we had imagined. These early stories often painted extraterrestrials as either hostile invaders or benign visitors, and they were foundational in shaping the public's perception of what an encounter with alien life might look like. The public's fascination with UFOs began to take shape as a part of this cultural imagination. However, it was not until the mid-20th century, when UFO sightings became more frequent and widely reported, that the concept of UFOs would truly take off in mainstream culture. The 1940s and 1950s saw a dramatic rise in the number of UFO sightings, and as these reports filled newspapers and news broadcasts, UFOs quickly became a subject of public fascination. The most famous of these early sightings was the Roswell incident in 1947, where a mysterious object crashed near Roswell, New Mexico. Although the U.S. government later claimed it was a weather balloon, rumors of a cover-up and extraterrestrial contact began to spread. The idea of an alien crash landing in the American heartland sparked a wave of interest in UFOs, leading to books, documentaries, and films dedicated to exploring the possibility of extraterrestrial life. During the 1950s, the UFO phenomenon gained significant traction in popular culture. The science fiction film genre exploded during this time, with movies such as The Day the Earth Stood Still, 1951, The Thing from Another World, 1951, and Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 1956, exploring themes of alien encounters, the threat of invasion, and the potential dangers of contact with advanced extraterrestrial civilizations. These films often reflected the anxieties of the time, the Cold War, the fear of nuclear annihilation, and the unknown. UFOs, in this context, were both symbols of a potential technological utopia and harbingers of an apocalyptic future. The concept of a UFO was no longer just a speculative idea, but a source of deep cultural reflection about the future of humanity. In the 1960s and 1970s, the cultural conversation surrounding UFOs began to shift. The counterculture movements of the era, particularly in the United States, embraced the idea of extraterrestrial life and UFOs in new and profound ways. As traditional social structures began to break down, people started to look beyond the confines of Earth for answers to existential questions about human consciousness, spirituality, and the meaning of life. UFOs came to symbolize a broader search for knowledge, wisdom, and enlightenment. The idea of life beyond Earth and the notion that UFOs might be visiting our planet also tied into the growing interest in psychedelics and altered states of consciousness.